The opinions and views expressed by individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of this network, their group, or other organization they may be involved with.
I'm looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the beauty of Tuesday evening news. Tuesday evening
Welcome, everyone, to Psychedelic Reporters this Tuesday, the 12th of August, episode 169 here on NOK Network, the video news podcast on psychedelic medicine being reported in mainstream media. Shout out to the guys in Dead Ringer from Kirkland Lake, Ontario for the awesome intro track, originally recorded by the Moody Blues with some customized changes for our show. I am joined by my amazing joint host, Tara Simpson, along with the one and only Bufo Alvarius, who has chosen our stories for us. Hello, Tara.
Well, hello, Obbies, and hello, everyone. I'd like to take a minute to introduce Bufo. He's our Sonoran desert toad, or Colorado mud toad. Did you know he emits DMT from his skin? And while that sounds like fun, park rangers would like to remind everyone, please don't lick that toad.
Do not lick the toad. Yeah, there's safer and easier ways to get your DMT.
Absolutely. Sustainable harvesting, correct dosing, all of those things are important with psychedelics.
Right, and you need to be knowledgeable on what you do. It's it's so that brings us to our first article, CPR.org, and it is CU Denver offers Colorado's first psychedelic training program at the public university. And this is written by Jenny Brunden.
Yeah, this is really cool. This is coming into our universities now. The University of Colorado Denver is accepting applicants for the state's first and only public university-based training program for psychedelic facilitators starting the fall term. Graduates, once licensed, will be able to conduct therapeutic sessions using psilocybin, the active ingredient in so-called magic mushrooms, in clinics, mental health, healing, or other research centers. In 2022, Colorado voters approved Proposition 122, which decriminalized the personal use and cultivation of psilocybin mushrooms and a handful of other psychedelic substances. The law also set up framework for regulating psychedelic medicines in therapeutic settings like healing centers and licensed facilitators who administer the therapy. There are now more than a dozen approved training programs in Colorado, most of them operated by private organizations. We're entering this space with the goal and mission to contribute well-trained facilitators, said Vivian Shao, Director of Education and Training at CU Denver Center for Psychedelic Research. So as a nonprofit and as a university-based program, everything will go back into the program to support the training itself. It gives us a place to practice from that, not relying on a for-profit model. The Psychedelic Facilitators Training Program will give students the tools to legally and ethically guide psychedelic-assisted experiences. That is very cool.
It is. It is. This whole article, I got goosebumps. A new frontier for treatment. Clinical trials have shown psilocybin-assisted therapy has the potential to help people with major depression, anxiety, and even in some cases, eating disorders and substances. And substance use disorder. The FDA has designated psilocybin as a breakthrough treatment, and studies underway on treating psychiatric distress in late stage cancer patients and PTSD. However, the substance still has to face an FDA review and is still classified as a Schedule 1 substance by the Drug Enforcement Agency, meaning the DAA considers it to have a high potential for abuse. After seeing the promising scientific research on psilocybin as a way to heal, the goal of Shayu and others at CU Denver Center for Psychedelic Research is to bring these to public in a safe way, in a way they could trust. In a mental health, I just feel like we've hit the wall. And this can be a practice and a tool that might allow us for us to conceptualize healing and being in a different way that could help us bring people to a place of more well-being, said Shayu. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, what will students learn? In the 16-week, 2-course series consists of a mix of self-paced online learning modules and virtual classroom meetings 2 evenings per week. The tuition is $7,500 with an additional $250 to $400 for materials and fees. The cost doesn't include the practical training that follows afterwards. CU Denver's program is tailored to people who are already licensed to provide mental health care in some capacity, such as therapists, nurse practitioners, social workers, or psychiatrists who want more tools in their tool belt. But there's room for people to get licensed and practice in more of these non-clinical wellness contexts under the same framework, said Shayu. After completing the 4-month program with 150 hours of coursework, trainees will work with the university's state-approved partners for 40 hours of real-world clinical experience and another 40 hours of working with a consultant. University officials say trainees can be ready to apply for state licensure in under 6 months. The program will focus on 3 core skills: ethical integrity, psychedelic experience, and embodied presence. The school says the well-being of clients is at the forefront. Trainees will learn how to ethically conduct a screening, recognize clients' needs, the appropriate use of supportive touch, understand power dynamics, and how to mitigate psychological and physical risks of psychedelic-assisted treatment. Embodied presence is about making sure that the people who are delivering these services understand the vulnerability and the potential that they're holding when they're working with clients. The course will also include instruction on historical, cultural, neuroscientific, and legal dimensions of psychedelic healing. The state has developed a code of ethics that students will study. For example, students will discuss situations which they are the right facilitator to work with a client when they are not. There are also some conditions, like someone who has a history of bipolar illness treated with lithium, or who has a history of significant untreated hypertension, that requires additional screening steps with a medical team to ensure that a psychedelic experience would be safe. The deadline for the program's fall application is September 22nd. Admissions decisions will be made by September 29th. Applications are also open for the spring of 2026. That is very cool.
It is. It is. And, it leaves a couple thoughts. If you're not a licensed psychiatrist and all that, the only thing you would be able to do with that license is do the psychedelic therapy, not the whole other initiating aftermath process. You would have to be a part of a team that has that license. I mean, that's what it seems like how they're
Yeah, it
covering
sounds like it's
themselves.
open to everyone. However, if you're not like a licensed practitioner of some kind, I think there's some additional steps that they're going to make people partake in to make sure that they're up to speed with everything, right?
Right. I love it. I love it, man. And it's who would thought Colorado would do it? I mean, so
Well, they've been
many.
at the forefront, so it kind of makes some sense. But it's just really like this is the first of its kind at a public university, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Where they did it right off of the schooling part. Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Our next episode comes all the way from Desert News, and it states a Utah faith group sued to use psychedelic mushrooms. Here's where the case stands. Lawsuit puts the state's new religious freedom law to the test, and this is written by Dennis Ramboy.
Yeah, so this is really interesting. A federal judge has made a ruling in favor of a Utah religion that uses psychedelic mushrooms in a first of its kind case that put the state's new religious freedoms law to the test. The faith group Singularism claims Provo City and Utah County violated the new law and other laws when police seized its psilocybin and scriptures last November and filed criminal charges against its founder, Bridget Lee Jensen. The city and the county maintain that singularism is motivated by a desire to sell illegal drugs, not to practice and promote a religious faith. The U.S. District Judge Jill Parrish determined the prosecution was brought in bad faith as part of a larger effort to harass the group's entheogenic religious practices in hopes of giving the government a second opportunity to litigate the free exercise of religion issues that emerged in this case. The prosecution has already caused Singularism to lose many of its practitioners and affiliates, and forcing plaintiffs to wait until the conclusion of criminal proceedings to secure their free exercise rights would be equivalent of issuing a death warrant for their nascent religion, the judge wrote. Parrish denied Provo's and Utah counties' motion to dismiss the lawsuit and ordered the county prosecutors to stop the criminal proceedings against Jensen, pending a ruling in the federal case. That's really wild.
It is. It is. It's the religious freedom protections. It's in 2024, Utah lawmakers passed a state-level religious freedom restoration act that gives Utahns, I like that, more power to challenge government actions that interfere with their religious beliefs. In a world that's increasingly hostile to religion, their amendments are an important of expression of Utah's long established commitment to religious freedom. And that it was from Representative Jordan Tusher, our South Jordan, said in February 2024. SB 150 was signed into law the next month. 8 months later, Singularism cited the law in a case that's now testing the limits of that long established commitment by asking whether religious freedom protections extend to a new faith group using psychedelic mushrooms in its ceremonies. Earlier this year, Parrish granted Singularism's request for a preliminary injunction ruling that Utah government officials cannot claim to support religious freedom if they prevent singularism's practitioners from living according to their beliefs. For the guarantee of religious liberty to mean anything, the laws must protect unfamiliar religious equally with familiar ones, both in design and in practice, she wrote. The earlier ruling caught the attention of religious freedom experts nationwide, who say the first of its kind Utah case raises familiar but still hotly debated questions about the purpose and scope of religious liberty laws. Wow.
Wow. What is singularism? Jensen, who describes singularism as a non dogmatic, spirituality based religion, has said he didn't set out to put Utah's religious freedoms protections to the test. He said the goal was to share his spiritual beliefs with others and enable them to deepen their faith through psilocybin tea ceremonies, as he has. Potential practitioners are screened before they take part in ceremonies. Insights shared by the people who take part, called voyagers, are added to the group's scriptures. Jensen opens Singularism Spiritual Center in an office park near Utah Valley Hospital in 2023. He said he invited local officials to visit and learn more, but no one took him up on the offer. In November of 2024, Provo police served a search warrant at the center and confiscated the group's psilocybin and scriptures. County prosecutors charged Jensen with possession of psilocybin with the intent to distribute, possession of THC, and use or possession of drug paraphernalia. Wow. So they didn't even want to expand their knowledge and, just see what this is all about first. They just we're just going to arrest you.
Right. Well, and it's at first it brings back to how many times Dave got kicked in the nuts while he was doing his church, or the other churches throughout. There's one trying to start up in Baton Rouge. They haven't got their dick kicked in yet, but I mean, it's religious freedoms. It's how do you, if you're using this as your sense of spirituality, and you're in a state like Utah who has fought for Mormons and individual, all different individualisms of religion, every right for the judge to be what the fuck.
Absolutely. So I'm glad that, the courts are actually taking it seriously and looking at it from that perspective, and not just, again, religions, you can't consume substances in their minds, right? There are reasons people use psychedelics, and they believe what they believe, and that should be allowed. They're not hurting anyone.
No. And to prove some of that, check this out. So off of hcsnews.unm.edu, UNM, which is University New Mexico, scientists test experimental psychedelic drug to alleviate the emotional toll of a life-threatening diagnosis. And this is written by Michael Hader or something.
Yeah, University of New Mexico researchers are joining a multi-site clinical trial of an experimental psychedelic drug intended to alleviate the mental suffering many patients experience when they receive a life-altering disease diagnosis. The Rekindle trial will test the effectiveness of RE104, a synthetic prodrug that is chemically similar to psilocybin, the active ingredient in so-called magic mushrooms, and said study director Lawrence Lehman, MD, MPH, a professor in the Department of Family and Community Medicine in the University of New Mexico School of Medicine. The phase 2 double-blind, placebo-controlled study will recruit patients who have received diagnosis of cancer amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, multiple sclerosis, or Parkinson's disease, conditions that may be terminal or leading to lingering disability. Patients with diagnosis like these often experience adjustment disorder characterized by a persistent, debilitating anxiety and depression. Anxiety and depression are common responses to these serious illnesses, Lehman said. However, when the responses are prolonged and intense, then adjustment disorder can be diagnosed. Psychedelic therapy holds the potential to lessen the distress experienced by a large number of people with serious medical illness, he said. If we look at the different indications for psychedelic therapies, this one may ultimately extend to many people. A challenging experience is common with someone diagnosed with ALS, stage 4 cancer, or other serious life-threatening illnesses. Many people will experience this in their lifetime. Psilocybin has been shown in previous studies to help people experiencing major depression and anxiety, Lehman said. It is metabolized into psilocin, a molecule that activates 5-HT2A serotonin receptors in brain tissue and induces a period of neuroplasticity that seems to allow people to reframe their difficult experiences and find greater peace of mind. The drug has little addictive potential and few serious side effects for healthy people, he said. One potential downside of the use of psilocybin to treat people with serious medical illness may be the duration of its psychedelic effect, 6 to 7 hours in most cases, he said. RE100, which is delivered via injection, has a shorter half-life, so that someone could undergo a therapeutic experience in about 3 hours. Oh, wow. I didn't know there was a injectable version of this. That's wild.
Yeah, this whole article is very like brain like eye candy or brain candy. UNM, one of the several sites participating in the clinical trial, has previously hosted other studies and potential use of drugs like psilocybin, MDMA, and ketamine to treat mood disorders and addiction, Lehman said. The research is conducted at the Interdisciplinary Substance Use and Brain Injury Center on UNM's North Campus, where patients are first screened for a variety of health problems and disqualifying conditions such as pregnancy and serious mental illness. After being burned with psilocybin, people typically don eye shades and rest quietly while being monitored by a licensed therapist and a trained co-facilitator. Many undergo a transformative mystical experience. For the most session, people are within, he said. There's not a lot of talking going on. It's more internal experience, the word we use in psychedelic therapy for processing of the experience is integration. The study will follow participants for 42 days after the season or after the session, evaluating their mood and quality of life. Lehman is reaching out to oncologists and other specialists who treat patients with life threatening illnesses to recruit patients. He will begin screening potential study participants later this month. The new study comes amid growing interest in the potential therapeutic uses of psychedelics like psilocybin and LSD, which in the US are classified as a Schedule 1 drug under the Controlled Substance Act. Earlier this year, the New Mexico legislature approved a measure to allow the therapeutic use of psilocybin for major treatment resistant depression, post traumatic stress disorder, substance use disorders, and end of life care, it can become available through a state-regulated program by the end of 2027, Lehman said. Wow.
Yeah. Should RE 104 fulfill its promise, he believes it could be a game changer for many people as they approach at the end of their lives. This has the potential to alter the process of death and dying for a lot of people, he said. A lot of us would probably agree that the fear of death in our society is very strong, and often the way of dying is often very difficult. If this is successful, it will offer all sorts of different possibilities. Right now, the medical side of death is basically palliative care, which helps with symptoms. Maybe this is a different way to process your life. I find it really interesting from that point of view.
Wow, that was a great article, man. It's
Absolutely.
I'm not a big fan of synthetic, but however, they're looking for natural ways to take a controlled to control a natural substance, and it's I
Yeah.
it works. I mean, it's man, it's
It may
it's
be an
still
option for some people.
Yeah, right. People like and if they take away, like, let's take some of the what's the word, the side effects, like the throwing up and stuff like that. Is it if this synthetic, it takes away that throw up, some people that want to take psychedelics but don't want to throw up can now take psychedelics.
That's true. Again, there are a handful of people who have allergies to certain types of antibiotics, like penicillins. So people in that case may be cross-sensitive to eating whole mushroom. But if a synthetic doesn't create that problem for them, that could open another channel for people who can't consume natural sourced and may have to rely on a synthetic to get the same experience.
Hey, you're right. So guess what? It's medication time.
That's right, folks. It's time to pay some bills. So stay tuned for a word from some of our sponsors, and then we'll return with more articles Bufo has chosen making mainstream media news.
Back in 4 minutes and 20 seconds here on Psychedelic Reporters on NOK Network.
Hey, hi, my name is John Mark, aka Sublimator Warrior, and I would like to welcome you to Smoke Signal in Tyendinaga.
One dab make your whole dome drip sweat. One dab make the homies all dip set.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Ooey, ooey, gooey, that's a sticky dab. Might just have to put this one on Instagram.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Hold it in, feel it in your wrist.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Check us out in Tyendinaga. 55 Highway 49 in Tyendinaga. It's on the res, and we're open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week.
Tune in daily to NOK's diverse podcasting lineup. Ganja News Update, Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Tara Simpson and Ron McNabb. Wake Up with the Waniac, Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific with Tombstoner Wayne Cruz. Grow 420, Tuesdays, 4 p.m. Eastern with the Forgetful Stoner Ron McNabb. Psychedelic Reporters, Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Hobbies Puppets and Tara Simpson. Peace, News and Views, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Kim Cooper and Sir Steve-O. Open Your Eye, Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Kim Cooper and Tara Simpson. Followed by Thursday Night Vibes, 9:15 Eastern with Master and Mama Roach. Cannabis and Crime, Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Christine Para from Machete Cat Productions. The IWK 710 Daily Set airs nightly, 7 days a week, with international rotating joint hosts, 7 p.m. Eastern. Rise and shine, it's marijuana time. Wake and bake with Ron McNabb at 7 a.m. Eastern, 7 days a week. Thanks for tuning in to all the podcasting on NOK Network.
Get back to the show.
And we're back from our medication session here live on Psychedelic Reporters on NOK Network.
And we have another set of stories coming at you from the realm of psychedelic medicine. So, let's get at it. Our next article comes out of DenverPost.com. And it states, Telluride Mushroom Festival has been tripping on psychedelics for 45 years. And this is written by Tiny Ricciardi.
Yeah, in the 1980s, if you wanted to talk openly about psychedelics, there was one primary place, Colorado, you could do so, a Telluride. At the time, drugs like psilocybin and LSD were newly illegal due to the passage of the Controlled Substance Act of 1970. Richard Nixon's subsequent war on drugs made psychedelics a taboo topic in the prevailing culture, even if they had piqued the interest of medical professionals for decades prior. One such enthusiast was a respected Denver radiologist named Manny Salzman. Though he was an expert on mushroom poisoning, Salzman was always interested in the psychoactive varieties and how they too might be a form of medicine. In the 1970s, Salzman hosted mushroom conferences in Aspen where doctors could come and learn about toxicity and poisoning. He later moved his conference to Gothic near Crest Butte and Telluride, which was sort of a hippie enclave. Accounts vary as to why openly discussing psychedelics was frowned upon in many places and may have led to the event's migration, some say. But in Telluride, he enlisted a few locals to help him throw a gathering of like minds, one that still exists today. In 1981, the Telluride Mushroom Conference, which would eventually become the Telluride Mushroom Festival, convened enthusiasts, experts, foragers, scientific renegades to hunt for wild mushrooms and talk about the mind-altering substances. The lineup featured some of the most forward-thinking thinkers in the space, including mycologist Paul Stamets and Gary Linkoff and Dr. Andrew Weil. The conference was a bunch of dissidents who wanted to talk about all aspects of mushrooms, not just toxins or identification. It was beyond just the mycology, said Art Goodtimes, one of the co-founders. And it was the only real drug conference and discussion that was public that I knew about in the country. It was masquerading almost as a mushroom conference.
Wow. Can you continue reading the articles? Mine's not popping up.
Yeah, Telluride Mushroom Festival celebrates its 45th annual event this year from August 13th to 17th. And though it has evolved from its humble beginnings, it still remains true to its roots in many ways. John Sir Jesse, another co-founder, recalls those earlier years lugging a green canvas military tent to Town Park so that everyone had a place to meet and share what they found foraging through the San Juan Mountains. Back then, attendees would meet for breakfast before venturing into the woods and later meeting back up for dinner when they cooked up all the edible non-psychedelic mushrooms they found. Sir Jesse said he's only found a single psilocybin mushroom in the wild near Telluride and that did not get served with dinner.
Wow. Is that all of it?
No. Is it still not popping up for you?
Yeah, it's still not popping up for me.
Oh, okay. No worries, I'll continue. Today, one of the hallmarks of the festivals remains guided forages, which attendees join an expert guide to collect mushrooms and bring them back to an identification tent. The fest has swapped the green canvas tent for white ones and is now set up at Elk Park in the middle of downtown. There is also still opportunities for festival goers to dine together and enjoy various preparations of coveted wild fungi, while they are ancillary events hosted private residences throughout town. As mushrooms and all their various uses in food, mycomaterials, environmental cleanup, and mental health have gained prominence in popular culture, Telluride Mushroom Festival has attracted more people. What started as a gathering of 40 people in 1981 has exploded to by far the largest wild mushroom event in North America, according to mycologist and festival co-director Britt Bunyard. Each summer, it welcomes an estimated 3,000 attendees. Wow. And then there's a list of it looks like a list of people and things happening at said event by the looks of it. It's a pretty long list, so I think that could be just a self read for those who are interested in figuring all this out.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was it?
That was it.
Okay. It popped up after.
Of course it did. You and your tech issues, right?
Yeah. Oh man, that's so awesome though that they've been doing it for so long, and still it's that advocacy thing that Kim talks about. It's when people if they didn't see a sample and example of it already, would people be quick, to the vote? So. Mm-hmm. So SciPost.org is our next article, and this is psychedelic benefits may partially depend on your personality, new research suggests. And this is written by Eric Dolan. Wow, that's a good question. A good self-question, too.
Mm-hmm. A psychedelic trip that leaves one person feeling transformed could leave another feeling unsettled, and the personality may be part of the reason. In the Journal of Psychedelic Studies, researchers report the openness predicted positive mystical experiences, while neuroticism was linked to more challenging and negative outcomes. And that could be like if you're really neurotic and OCD about things, being out of your element on one of these substances takes that control from you. So that could be you fighting your own self, in my opinion. Psychedelic substances such as psilocybin, found in certain magic mushrooms, LSD, and DMT are known for producing profound alterations in perception, thought, and emotion. They act primarily on the brain's serotonergic system, which have been used in both ceremonial and experimental contexts for centuries. In recent years, scientific interest in these compounds has grown due to their potential to enhance well-being and treat mental health conditions, with some studies suggesting that a single experience can have lasting positive effects on quality of life. The current study examines these experiences through the lens of Big Five personality model, one of the most widely accepted frameworks in psychology. The Big Five describes personalities across 5 broad dimensions: openness, curiosity and preference for novelty, conscientiousness, which is organization and reliability, extroversion, so your social and energy, agreeableness, cooperativeness, and empathy, and neuroticism, tendency towards negative emotions. While prior research has shown that psychedelic experience can be deeply meaningful, people often respond in very different ways. Some finding the experience transformative and life-enhancing, others encountering intense anxiety or distress. The study authors aim to understand whether personality traits could help explain this variation. They also sought to assess both the quality of these experiences, whether they were mystical, challenging, or both, and their long-term consequences, whether positive or negative. Wow, that's pretty cool.
It is. Individual differences perspective is often missing from psychedelic research, which tends to focus on average outcomes. By incorporating personality, the researchers hope to provide a more nuanced picture of who might benefit most from psychedelic use and who might be more vulnerable to adverse effects. At Lund University, South Sweden, we have the National Leading Center Personality Research, and applying individual differences in personality traits to one of the most phenomenologically interesting experiences human argumentally can have is, of course, in the interest of psychological research. We also have several parallel projects, such as one of the first randomized controlled trials on anorexia and psilocybin, and the first doctoral project on psychedelic effects on adolescents compared to adults, explained by Petrie J. Kajanius, an associate professor of personality psychology and assessment. Because psychedelic use is prohibited in Sweden, the researchers recruited participants through an anonymous online survey shared on social media. The 400 respondents, 1/3 of the women, have an average age of 34 years. Most have used LSD or psilocybin, and many reported taking substances, which is a personal growth motive, often in a natural settings and sometimes with a trip setter present. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great, man.
Yeah, participants were asked to recall the single most impactful psychedelic experience they had ever had, which typically occurred in their early 20s. They rated the significance of the experience compared to other life events, the degree to which it was challenging or mystical, and its lasting positive or negative effects. They also completed a 30-item questionnaire assessing their standing on the Big Five traits. The researchers measured challenging qualities through reports of fear, difficulty, and threat during the experience, while mystical qualities were assessed through feelings of ego dissolution and a sense of unity. Positive and negative life consequences were gauged through challenges in areas of self-concept, relationships, anxiety, and mood. The vast majority of participants rated their psychedelic experience as highly significant. 82% placed it among the top 10 most meaningful events in their lives, 56% among the top 5, and 11% as the single most significant. Participants described their most meaningful psychedelic experiences as both demanding and otherworldly. On the study's 0 to 5 scale, the experience was rated moderately challenging at 3.14 and even more mystical at 3.6. Long-term fallout leaned strongly positive. Negative after effects were minimal at 0.14, while positive life changes were high at 4.26. Wow. So see, there is something to this.
It is. Openness was the first trial trait most consistently tied to beneficial outcomes. So that meant higher openness related to stronger mystical qualities during the experience and to greater positive life effects afterward. When the sample was split at the mean, those high in openness had nearly doubled odds of reporting substantial positive changes. Openness is also showed a small link with reporting the experience as more challenging, suggesting that open individuals have engaged more deeply and come away more upside. The Big Five trait openness seems to be a very strong predictor for many outcomes before, during, and after a psychedelic experience, Jonas told Psychos. Result is furthermore likely underestimated, seeing how the internal consistency in the psychometrics. Neuroticism showed the opposite trend and is modestly associated reporting negative consequences and with reporting positive outcomes, expressed as odds higher. Neuroticism corresponded to a 56% increase in the likelihood of negative after effects. After these effects were small, they suggested that people prone to anxiety and emotional volatility are more likely to experience lingering downsides and less likely to report broad lasting benefits. The most important takeaway is perhaps that individuals do not see the world similarly, and that individual difference is the Big Five traits. It is one avenue of exploring and understanding. This fact, Junior said, applying this to psychedelic experience would, according to our hypothesis, yield some patterns from personality, which it arguably did indeed show. Wow.
Yeah, other traits played a similar role. Consciousness showed a moderate positive association with beneficial life changes. Extroversion and agreeableness had only minor links with positive outcomes, and none of the traits related strongly to negative consequences beyond neuroticism's modest effect. The findings suggest that personality plays a meaningful role in how people experience and respond to psychedelics. For those exploring therapeutic use of psychedelics, these insights could help tailor experiences to the individual, maximizing potential while minimizing risk. Our study again gives us evidence that not only dose and context matter, but also the person. The psychological constitution of the individual taking the psychedelic substance, Congius told PsychPost. This is, of course, well known within psychiatry, but for some reason, it hasn't been as relevant or evident in nascent research on psychedelics. For instance, neurotic persons should take extra caution, while open-minded persons tend to explore and grow in their personality in regards to psychedelics. As with all research, there are limitations to consider. The sample was self-selected, likely skewing towards individuals with especially meaningful or positive psychedelic experiences. As Ken just noted, the sample is very, very skewed towards psychonauts. Another complication is that psychedelic experiences themselves may alter personality traits, making it more difficult to determine whether the trait was influenced by the experience or were shaped by it. Some research has suggested that psychedelic use can lead to lasting increases in openness and decreases in neuroticism. Future studies could address these issues by using larger, more diverse samples, assessing personality before and after psychedelic use, and including people who have had less positive or more neutral experiences. Controlled experimental designs through challenging these substances would also help clarify cause and effect relationship. So that's really cool. And again, I agree. I mean, had the survey been done prior to the experience and then done after the experience, I think they would get a better understanding of whether personality changes happened, right? So once you've taken the substance, well, you don't know what the baseline was prior to in that context. So
yeah, that's well, and man, it's so different, so different. The world of technology or studies and all that is just fantastic. And that brings us to our last article. It's a short one, and Political.com talks about from psychedelic medicine CEO eyes chances under MAHA by Aaron Shoemaker.
Yeah, the CEO of the psychedelic medicine company Compass Pathways, Kibernath, has had a front row seat to a dramatic year in the field of psychedelics. Once an industry darling, Compass competitor Lykos Therapeutic was brought to its knees last summer when the Food and Drug Administration turned down the drug maker's application for the psychedelic drug MDMA combined with talk therapy as a treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder. Lykos quickly shed staff and top leadership following the decision, including board member Rick Doblin, who spent decades campaigning for FDA approval of the drug. The rejection has also had chilling effects on the industry at large. Compass delayed results of its late-stage psychedelic trials and laid off 30% of its staff. But the environment has started to thaw in recent months. President Donald Trump's appointee, including HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and VA Secretary Doug Collins, have sparked excitement among psychedelic proponents by touting psychedelic therapy's promise as a treatment for veterans with mental illness. In June, Kennedy offered a progressive update on psychedelic therapies. We're working very hard to make sure that this happens within 12 months, he told members of Congress. In late June, Compass released top-line results from its phase 3 trial of the synthetic form of psilocybin, which is derived from psychedelic mushrooms, as a therapy for treatment-resistant depression. While full findings won't be released until later this year, preliminary results found that after 6 weeks, a single dose of synthetic psilocybin reduced participants' depression scores by 3.6 points compared to the placebo group in the randomized trial of 258 people. Aaron caught up with Nath to learn more about what's next for Compass and how the company is positioning itself under the new administration. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so how are you feeling about your chance of FDA approval since Trump took office? You want to be the CEO?
Sure. We plan to meet with the FDA to discuss that and talk about any potentials for accelerating the filing. Right now, our base case continues to be that we will need both of the phase 3 studies. The second one reads out at the second half of in 2026. So that continues to be our base case because that's the existing alignment we have with the agency. We're encouraged by the fact that there are voices in administration at different levels who seem to share our view of the potential for psychedelics and share an interest in trying to get them accelerated, subject to doing the right rigorous studies and getting the science right.
Which voices in the administration are you thinking of?
What's in the public domain is that both RFK Jr. and Secretary Collins have talked about trying to find a way to make psychedelics available within 12 months. That has to be defined. Does that mean full approval? Does that mean some sort of framework of early access? What we're excited to do is find opportunities to partner if we can, so that whether it's early access or whether it's some sort of pilot program, we could participate in that. But crucially, we want to respect the integrity of FDA's approval process. That's fundamental to us because that is the gold standard for ensuring safety and effectiveness.
So FDA Commissioner Marty Makary has also spoken publicly about psychedelics.
There are a number of people who are on record saying they see potential, but to be clear, we're not asking for psychedelic exceptionalism. We're not asking for a different standard. We've done 2 very large studies in patients with treatment-resistant depression, and we are 2 for 2 in showing highly statistically significant positive results after a single dose. In this population of really hard to treat depression, we think that it's probably a unique achievement, but we'll call it remarkable.
So awesome. That was so cool.
Lots happening.
Yeah, and they already got told. I have this theory that if you get rejected, your next project is much better because now you failed so many damn times.
Right.
So yeah, so cool. I'm waiting for my lines. Oh, here it is. Okay. Thank you for joining us here on Psychedelic Reporters on NOK Network, and for tuning into our video podcast on NOK Networks and Rumble and YouTube pages, as well as our social media sites.
That's right, folks. We hope you've enjoyed your update today of mainstream media coverage of psychedelic medicine advancements from around the globe.
Many thanks to our sponsors and to my joint host, Terrace Simpson and Buffalo Various, for making this show possible. And to Kim Cooper, that is in the background, getting high. And to you, our listeners, joining each week on Psychedelic Tuesdays. Let's hear from Dead Ringer again from Kirkland Lake on our way out.
Night.
Looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairy land of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the beauty of